Welcome to Burn the Ship, the podcast that helps entrepreneurs go all in on their business, and we introduce them to professionals that can help them to do so. Today, we have a very special guest. Kevin, how are you doing today?
Good, Ra. Good to see you.
Good. Yeah. Please introduce yourself in the name of your businesses.
Sure. Hey, everybody. My name's Kevin Marcy. I'm the owner and founder of Georgia Funeral Care, the Cowan Historic Mill, and Providence Cemetery. Two of those are located in Ackworth, Georgia, and the others in Cartersville, Georgia.
Awesome. We so look forward to learning more about your businesses.
Thank you.
But before that, we want to learn a little bit more about your story. And we understand that time is one of our most valuable resources. So tell us a little bit about your journey, Kevin.
Sure. So I grew up in the funeral business, little town in Ohio. My family had a little funeral home that started in 1868.
Okay.
So I'm actually a fifth-generation funeral director.
Oh, nice.
Grew up in the business, learning from the best. My dad, my grandfather. Learning about business, but also learning about caring for people and what's really most important in life.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent, since I was able to walk in and around the funeral home, doing everything from toting flowers, up there shoveling snow, washing cars, learning from the ground up, and eventually doing some work with my dad and my grandfather. Went to Ohio University, and then moved to Atlanta in about 1986, and eventually went to mortuary school and got into the funeral business here. Thought maybe I'd go back to Ohio eventually, take over the family business, but I met my wife. We've been married 37 years.
Yes.
2 kids, 5 grandkids.
Okay.
And so I'm not going back.
I definitely understand.
Yeah.
Definitely understand.
So worked my way through management here, and then in 2007 started one of the first pet funeral homes in the area. Sold that in 2021. But my real journey has started in 2012 when I started Georgia Funeral Care. And then in 2019, right before COVID, we bought the old mill in downtown Ackworth, which is now the Cowan Mill, our event venue. And then last year purchased Providence Cemetery in Cartersville.
Nice. Now, for your story, it's a little bit different because you grew up in the business. One of the things I wanted to ask you, how was it that having mentors surround you from the get-go help you to stay focused and get through some of the mistakes and things like that most other people have to go through?
That's a good question, because both my father and my grandfather were tremendous mentors for me. Obviously as a man, as a person growing up, but also in the business. Being family owned, being in a smaller community, it was very tight knit. So I watched them, I learned from them. Then coming to Atlanta, a whole different lifestyle, whole different pace. I met some of the mentors in my life here that taught me about the new things that are happening in our industry. Cremation. I worked for the largest cremation organization in the Southeast for a while right here in Atlanta. Learned a lot, became a professional in studying cremation, learning about the growth, where it's going, where the funeral industry is heading. So these mentors, watching them build their businesses, helped me learn from their mistakes, but also learning from them after I made mistakes. I still stay in touch with a lot of them today. Count on them sometimes for some advice. So I have to say that mentors in a business, family owned or not, are very important. Very important.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's one of those things where a lot of business owners try to do it alone, and in those particular instances, they struggle in some cases where they didn't have to, because I'm telling you, if you have a mentor, they have seen things, even if they didn't commit those mistakes, they've seen those mistakes, and they can share with you about some of those things to avoid.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean we still don't make them.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, sometimes it's a call on, hey, how can I clean this up? Okay, I went down the wrong path here. I need to reboot this, and So yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to highlight that, because being in a generational business, I knew you had that slight advantage over a lot of people. So I'm glad you were able to share that with us. Now, you said in 2019, after working with management and the cremation, you decided to purchase the event space down there?
Yes.
What made you make that decision?
So our funeral home in Ackworth is on Main Street. And every day I would look across from our front door and see the old mill. It was originally refurbished back in the early 2000s, became a restaurant, closed, became a restaurant, closed, and one day it closed again. And I just looked at that place and I went, we loved going there. We loved the beauty, the architecture, the just the history about it. So my daughter-in-law was in the wedding business at that time, and I just had one of these God moments that went, and my wife went, you know. But I said, well, listen to the vision, you know. And I got my daughter-in-law involved. We toured it, and we said, let's, you know, what if we added an outdoor space? What kind of, you know, we all had this vision of what we could create there. And we had a conversation with the current owner. He liked the idea. He sold the building to us, and that was 2019, I believe, in April. And we started the building process, and then, of course, COVID hit. And it was like, one good thing I will say is that, you know, the wedding industry, which is kind of what we focus on there, your people are booking a year or 6 months, a year out. So we had the advantage of you know, showing drawings, showing our vision to people that came wanting to book, and they trusted us that, okay, and in a year when their wedding was going to happen, that we'd be ready to go. And, you know, thank God we were. So,
Awesome. That's magnificent. I know weddings are one of your focus. Tell us a little bit more about some of the events that you have there, and who are the people you're trying to cater to in that business?
Sure. So the Cowan Mill, the vision there was to create a kind of an industrial elegance, per se. If you get a chance to check out the website or come by, the inside has a huge chandelier. It's just beautiful in there. So what we want is create a unique experience for bridegrooms and brides there, whether it's an outdoor wedding overlooking the city of Ackworth with all the lights, or whether it's a graduation party, or whether it's a rehearsal dinner, or, you know, any of those private events. It can be adapted to any of that. And so that's kind of what we wanted to do, is treat someone with the vision we had of such a really cool, beautiful place.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to open it up for you later on to show people how to get in contact with you. But I did want to talk about one thing now. When I was growing up, I wasn't a big fan of horror movies, but I did see a horror movie called Pet Sematary. What in the world made you get into that business?
So, you know, and I've heard people tell me this, and I never saw that movie, but
scary.
I've heard about it. Huge pet lover.
Okay.
We've had dogs all of our lives. I grew up with dogs and cats. Just huge pet lover. And being in the funeral business, I often thought, well, why isn't anybody caring for pets like they do their humans? I mean, we loved our dogs, still do, like they're our own kids. Sleep in the bed. We sometimes are accused of treating them better than our own kids. You know. And so I had this vision that let's create a meaningful experience for pet parents when their furry babies died. And so it wasn't just contact with veterinarians. We thought outside the box. You know, we went to people's homes. So if you know, their little dog died in the middle of the night, they'd call us. We'd get up in the middle of the night and we'd go there and be with them and take. So it was just again another professional vision that we had of, here's something that isn't being done. We felt that we wanted to accomplish, and I knew the funeral business. You know, I grew up in it, so let's take that same business idea and move it over here to pets. And it was a wonderful time, 2007 to 2021, and then we were approached by a large company, you know, that had purchased some others in the area. They were interested in ours, and I also, again, as being a business owner, you kind of have to watch the market. I saw a lot of veterinarians selling their practices to big organizations who had developed relationships with other pet funeral homes or crematories nationally. So I'm like, I can see what's happening here. I may run into a situation where I could lose lot of accounts.
Okay.
So the
Okay.
timing was right. Timing
Okay.
is everything.
Well,
Yeah.
good. Well, good. I'm definitely glad you had that vision, was able to provide that care for all of those
Yeah.
families, but more importantly, on the business side, you knew when to get out of there. So, definitely appreciate you sharing that. And
Yeah.
and like you shared, you came down to Georgia, you got your education, you got into some corporate type deals, but you still had that funeral director mentality back there, and it seems like you had opportunities to do other things. Was there an event that made you say, you know what, I'm going to burn the ship and open my own funeral home?
Yes. So I was noticing that being in the funeral business and around it, I was hearing people tell me all the time about how expensive funerals and cremations were.
Mm-hmm.
How sometimes the lack of care and sometimes just the lack of professionalism. And I'm not knocking my industry whatsoever, because there's some wonderful people and some wonderful funeral homes. That's not what I'm doing. But I just know, people privately would pull me aside. Kevin, funerals are so expensive. I just didn't feel like I got what I needed. So I was hearing that, and I was also noticing online that there wasn't a lot of funeral homes or crematories at the time advertising or marketing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was odd. So I say it's a God thing. I have these visions, and the vision was, start a funeral home that provided top-notch care. I mean, over the top. I learned it from my dad and my grandfather, right, and my mentors, as we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Provide a funeral home that was affordable to people. Find a way to make a funeral or cremation affordable, and they don't have to go to GoFundMe or, that drives me crazy. There's got to be a way, and help people plan and learn how to get ready for that. And then the third one was, we also are heavy into working with veterans and veterans' families.
Okay.
I wanted a funeral home that also could provide the kind of services for veterans and their families that no one else is doing. And I could talk forever about that, because I mean, we'd be here for a couple hours.
Yeah, it's more than fun.
But we do we try to do as much as we can for veterans and their families. I'm not a veteran, but a lot of the people in my family were. So my way, or my thought was I'm going to serve by giving back to them.
Okay.
So we started the business in 2012, as I mentioned, and that was, those three focuses were on mind. We were asked pretty quickly to join a national organization called Veterans Funeral Care.
Okay.
Handpicked funeral homes across the country because of the dedication and care they give for veterans. So
Yes.
so I'm also involved here with the Cobb County Veterans Memorial.
Okay.
Yep, I'm on the advisory committee. So things like that. We just dive in and get involved. So,
Right.
So we started in 2012. We found a building. I hadn't had all the funding yet, but I just knew in my mind this was going to happen.
Okay.
Credit cards, 401ks, like most of business people do, when they just make it happen.
That's right.
Because they know. And so we started out, dove into the internet initially. Yeah. And we were one of the first to advertise low-cost funerals, lower-cost cremations. That helped us launch our business into what we are today, and that's a full-service, affordable funeral home that dedicates, a lot to veterans and their families.
Awesome. Now, as you know, when that time comes, you have the decision to say, I'm going to have a traditional funeral or I am going to get cremated. Tell us a little bit about the differences of how that works, and over your years of experience, why would one person choose one thing and one person choose another?
Well, there's actually a lot of reasons for both of those.
Okay.
But so you're probably familiar with the traditional funeral. You either have a viewing visitation the night before, or before on the day of. You have your funeral, the casket, go to the cemetery, have your burial. So that's a lot of people don't realize that you can do that exact same thing with cremation. Okay. But instead of going to the cemetery, you're cremated.
Okay.
So part of it is, what we do is we try to educate people on the different options that are available, not pushing people into one area. It's got to be burial, no. We just help and guide them through what they really want. So we ask questions, probing questions. We get to know them, find out what they're really about, and then we try to understand the reasoning why. I personally think it's important to have some kind of service for those who are still here. Give them a chance to say goodbye, start that grieving process. But that's not what everybody wants.
Okay.
And as they're planning for their loved one's death, that person could tell them, I don't want any kind of service. That's not what I want. So we go through that process with folks, is describing the different types of cremation, describing the different types of burial options, graveside service, a direct burial, different things. And then we listen to them.
Yes.
So you asked, why are the reasons that people choose one or the other? So religion is one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in some cases, people feel like I have to be buried. Cremation. I just don't believe in it. So they want full burial.
Okay.
Sometimes it's I'm some of the things they're afraid of. I don't want to be put in the ground.
Okay.
I don't want to be put in a crypt. I'd rather be cremated. But then on the other side of that, I don't want to be put in fire. I don't want to be, So just the process sometimes is part of the decision making. We live in a world where everybody's moving all over. So it used to be like in my little hometown, if you didn't go to one or two funeral homes, you didn't go to heaven.
Okay.
That's just the way it was.
Okay. Okay.
So and everybody got buried. Everybody was buried because everybody lived there. They all worked in that town, and everybody for generations were buried through that one funeral home. And that's what they just did.
Right.
But as everybody moves away, as you can see, I moved from my town. I'm here. People move away. That begins to disappear. So now it's like, well, I've got family all over. There's no reason to bring everybody in for a funeral. No one's going to visit my grave. So let me just be cremated.
Yeah.
That's the other. It's just easier sometimes.
Yeah.
And then I would say lastly is probably just the expense.
Okay.
Yeah. There can be a significant difference between a full burial, because you're dealing not only with the funeral home but the cemetery and those expenses, versus maybe just a direct cremation and the ashes are handed back to the loved one.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you so much for explaining that portion of it. Now, Kevin, I want to ask, you have been in the end-of-life business for a long time. I'm sure you've seen a lot of grieving people. How do you keep yourself uplifted to be able to get people through this process?
That's a really good question. I get asked that question actually quite a bit. What I try to tell people is, I really focus on helping somebody through the worst time of their life. That day, I could be sitting across from a husband or a wife that lost the most important person or thing in their entire life. So if I can help them on the worst day of their life and get a hug or a handshake and say, God, thank you for doing this for me, then I go home feeling good about what I do.
Right.
I don't concentrate on the death. I concentrate on helping the grieving, and then if I can accomplish that, then I go home feeling, amazing on what I'm doing. It's a calling. It's a ministry for me.
Okay.
Because that's what we really focus on. And
Okay.
I love people coming back and bringing cookies or cake or something and just hug my neck and say, I couldn't have done this without you.
Yes.
And that means more to me than anything.
Makes a lot of sense. Helping that family get through that tough time helps to fill your soul, so that way it can keep pumping you through. All right, well, cool. Well, thanks for sharing that portion. I knew it was going to be a question that I asked because, like I said, you're around tough times all the time. And I said, how does he keep himself plugged in? So,
well, and
makes
it's not
sense.
all the time.
Okay.
I mean, being around it takes its toll, and especially children and different things. I always put myself in their position, and it's hard. But again, I try to turn that around and know if I can help them.
Gotcha. Now, throughout this life you've been through, mentorship with your dad, your granddad, had some other school experience, but definitely a lot of business experience. And I'm confident that over your journey, you have acquired and nurtured a bunch of best practices or business skills that have helped you to be successful. Do you mind sharing with the audience a couple of those best practices? Maybe they can add that to their mix.
Sure. So I don't know if I'm going to call it best practices, but what I will tell you is I've always been one to think outside the box. And that may sound funny being in the funeral business, but I'm one of those that I do things totally different, and I don't do it by the book. Okay. Legally, I do.
Yes.
But I mean, but when I'm sitting across from someone or sitting with someone, we're going to create something that is meaningful to them. Not just your cookie cutter. We created Georgia Funeral Care in that way, and it's not like any other funeral home out there because of what we do and how we do it. So I just believe that you think outside the box, you find unique and different ways to satisfy the goal that you're trying to accomplish, and don't beat yourself up thinking, that's stupid, that's the wrong thing to go. No one else is doing that. Why, take risks.
Okay.
Go for it. Find a way to accomplish your goal in ways that other people haven't really thought about.
Okay.
And that's, for me, I've done that in everything that I've done. I don't mean that bragging. I just have that thought that, just because they didn't do it doesn't mean I can't.
Yes.
And, starting a pet funeral home, people looked at me like, what? We have a very unique cremation organization. People look at me like, what? You're going to charge what?
You're right.
Yeah.
Right.
But this is what we're going to do, and you find a way to make it work, or you learn from your mistakes and fix it, add to it, and make it.
So
think outside the box.
Think outside the box. Have vision, and as we talk about having vision, you have some things coming up on the horizon. You guys are about to open up some new things with the.
Well, yeah, we're working. One of the reasons that I purchased the cemetery in Cartersville is that we're hoping to expand our funeral business there.
Okay.
Yeah, business plans ready. Working with funding right now, and the goal there is, again, a visionary as I am. We're going to create something that is going to accommodate how the growth of the funeral industry is going, which is more cremation and more celebrations.
Okay.
So we found in coming out of COVID that a lot of people just stopped going to funerals. They turned a funeral into a celebration somehow, outside event. More of a gathering celebration than a somber funeral.
Right.
We still do a lot of those. We still do church funerals. We still, have our chapel where it's a traditional. But this facility is going to be a funeral home / event venue, where, maybe our funeral is now a celebration where people are going to have food and drinks and music, live music, or whatever, and it's going to be a time to celebrate. We're going to have a nice big room, chandeliers, and it can accommodate a traditional funeral. If that's what somebody wants, we can turn it into that. Or we'll turn it into a celebration for a family who lost a loved one that said, I want a Irish wake, whatever it might be. And so, again, we're going to find out what they want, be creative with it, have some fun with it, and find a way to help these people celebrate the life of their loved one. We're going to have some outdoor features. Go outside, sit around the fire, talk about Dad. Enjoy some outdoor time. So it's going to be a unique concept to this area, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Nice. When you thinking 2027, 28?
Yeah. Probably open the doors mid-2027 if everything goes as planned.
Well, we definitely look forward to seeing that, and I love that idea as far as celebrating, because you, like I said, it's usually a somber time, a lot of tears. I want to have tears of joy, so I appreciate you sharing that with me. Now, we've talked a lot about your journey, the businesses, best practices in the future, but I want to talk about you. So let's just say that your businesses are continuing to flourish. Time and money is no issue at all. What is it that Kevin would do with his time?
Well, I think the first thing I would probably do is spend even more time with my family.
Okay.
You know, I think I mentioned I've got two sons, 5 grandkids, and we just have the best time. They all live close.
Okay.
We all vacation sometimes together. We're eating dinner together. I see them almost every day. So spending more time, being able to take them everywhere we go, help them out, help our church, go to North Star Church. Also enjoy traveling. You know, being in my business, I can't tell you how many times I've heard, well, Bill and I saved up all our lives till he retired, and then Bill dies after retirement.
Right.
And so now what am I going to do? So my grandmother told me one time, she said, Kevin, travel while you're young, because when you get old, you might not be able to.
I got you.
So that's our goal. Creating memories, traveling would be part of that, you know. Selfish, we enjoy sports car racing, so maybe spend a little more time doing that or watching that.
Okay.
Staying healthy, you know, just
trying to stay in the gym, health is wealth. Type situation.
Right.
Now, for your vacations, you're thinking more of beach or mountains. What are those preferences that you and your family like to have?
I'm one of those all the above.
Okay.
My wife's more of the sun and fun and beach and cruise ship kind of thing. So
so
maybe
that's what you are.
Yeah.
Beaches and cruises. That a way to answer that?
Yeah.
I gotcha.
So yeah, probably we enjoy, you know, Europe. We enjoy, you know, just experiencing unique places, places that you know, different cultures, just to see how people live. How they work, how they eat, how they exercise, all those things. It's just really fulfilling to do that.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that portion.
Yeah.
Truly always like to hear those things that you guys would do and have on your bucket list. Now, if the people that are watching today have questions about your journey, about any of the businesses, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yep. So our websites are probably the best way to start because they have all of our contact, all of our phone numbers. So Georgia Funeral Care is georgiafuneralcare.com. Georgia is spelled out. The Cowan Historic Mill is the Cowan Mill, and that's COWAN, thecowanmill.com. And then the cemetery is providencecaresga.com, and that's Providence Cemetery. And feel free to reach out to me. My email is kevin@georgiafuneralcare.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we truly do appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing with us your journey and those things that you have in the future. And we always honor our guests by giving you guys the last word. So if you don't mind, Kevin, please look into the camera and tell the people something good.
Okay. So 2 things that I try to build my life on when it comes to business or even personal. And one is, you know, I tell myself in anything that I do that there's absolutely no room for failure. I mean, it's just not even an option. I know that sounds cliche, but I can tell you times when I've been down or you know, losing that fight, and I just pick myself up and I said, there's no option for failure here. You know, I have kids. You know, at the time of starting my other businesses, you know, I had young kids. There's no option for failure. So that's one of the things that I kind of live by. And the another one is I've heard several people say this, and is that it's not what you say to somebody, it's not what you do for somebody, but it's how you make them feel, and that's really important to me. So thank you. I appreciate you all having me today.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We truly do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And to everyone that is watching, be kind and thanks.